Hello. Hi. I'm having such internet trouble. Okay. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm just sitting here holding the phone. I don't know if I'm gonna miss Michael Aiduss or not. We'll see. Hold on. No. Okay. Hi, Toronto. How you doing? We are trying to hook up. I am trying to hook up with Michael Aiduss. I hope I'm saying his last name right. This is it. I keep messing up my Instagram. He's unable to join. Oh, shoot. Hi, you're in India. Okay, I'm trying again. Hey, Toronto. I love Toronto too. Hey, oh my
Hi,
God.
Alexa.
I am so sorry. Twice
That's
now.
all right.
Huh.
No worries at all. I'm going to just adjust myself a little bit.
And Mercury is very much in retrograde.
Oh my gosh, it totally has been.
My phone didn't work paying for a taxi today, and somebody had to run downstairs and give me money. My Wi-Fi in the house is down, and as you know, I've been having my Instagram issues. Hello, Brazil. Michael, how do I pronounce your last name? I've never called you by your last name.
It is Aiduss.
Okay, it is.
I know there's lots of vowels, but it's just like the letter A and then D-U-S-S. Like you almost don't say the letter I.
Yes, I could almost use you for Wordle, but not quite. My daughter just got me hooked on that, so I have to do that later.
That's great.
So, Michael, you and I met in person and hung out, rather, for the first time at Kips Bay, Dallas.
Yes, it was so exciting.
Where you did this incredible, oh, by the way, this is not a prop.
Oh, fabulous.
I had this here because I was using it. I am using it. Anyway, you did the living room at Kips Bay, and it was so glorious.
Thank you.
And, I love your work. So tell me everything. And I love, by the way, where you're situated right now. It's perfect.
Thank you. I'm actually in the conference room. It's our library, our conference room. It's a super cozy spot. What's that?
Your handsomeness has been much remarked upon.
Oh, why, thank you. It's really the room.
Oh.
So Kips Bay was incredible. I was sort of connected through Joy Moyler, who's so amazing. I love Joy. And originally she asked me to do Palm Beach. And I said yes, and then some time passed, and then I have some large international projects happening, and I just wasn't able to do it. And so she's like, oh, would you please do something in the future? And Dallas came up, and I could not say no. I haven't been to Dallas in so long. I've had clients there before, and it's such a fun place to be.
Isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the people are amazing. The houses are fantastic. The food was amazing. So,
yeah.
So I saw the pictures of the house and I thought to myself, oh gosh, I hope I get a good room, right? We all wish this. And then I get the living room and I'm like, oh gosh, blessing and a curse, right? It's like the best room, but it's the biggest room. So
yeah. I know, we've all, people think one would be insulted to get a small room, but like we all kind of secretly hope we get a small room, right?
It's so much work and effort that goes into it.
Expense and
yeah.
And small rooms are so, you know, you can really just blast it. It is not easy, but you brought it. It was so beautiful.
You know, it was, I think one of the things for me, we do this with all of our projects with our clients, is we try to imagine like architects, it starts with the architecture first. And it's like architecturally, how should this room feel? What would feel really appropriate? Right. So, I mean, of course, I love classical architecture, and whether it's decorated in a classical way or it becomes more modern and contemporary, you can. But I looked at this room and I thought, oh, it's long and narrow. The ceiling wasn't terribly high.
It was just longer than it was wide.
Yes.
But it was a great room.
It was a good room. I wish the ceilings were higher, truthfully. Yeah. But I mean, for me, it was instantly, you know, thinking about doing panel molding to just create that vertical element in the room. And I worked with a great plaster company in Dallas, who they did the original plaster work in the house. So it was kind of fun to work with them in recreating some of the elements that were there, but definitely improving on the scale and just sort of a stronger intention.
So when you were coming up in the world of design, did you study architecture? Did you study design?
I studied design, but since I was a kid, I've been sketching floor plans of houses. My parents and I would go on family vacations all the time, and we would visit historical houses. It's what we did. We'd go to Newport, we would go to Williamsburg, and, you know, any place that we would go to, it's like, oh, there's a historical house, we'd visit it. And then I would go home and I would actually sketch the floor plan. In the rooms that I didn't see, I would look at, you know, pictures and try to figure out what the plan should be. And so I've been doing that since I was a kid, and just have always had an affinity for it. And as a company, you know, we're an interiors company, but we're very strong with interior architecture. And, you know, we pair well with working with other architects, or if we design projects from scratch, you know, we just have a heavy hand in it.
Yeah, but not a heavy hand. A heavy hand, but a light touch.
Yes.
So tell me how you got, well, obviously that clearly, I don't even know you could say that planted the seed, because it sounds like it was there. Were either of your parents creative?
My dad was an architect, and my mom, you know, was raising us, but was an amazing antique collector. You know, we would go to every tag sale, every antique store. You know, it's like, oh, there's an antique store, stop the car.
Michael, we grew up together because it's familiar.
It's I've been doing it since I was a kid, so that's what I love to do. It's just it's the fun of it.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nutley, New Jersey, in a gorgeous historical house. Although when my parents bought it, it was it hadn't been renovated since maybe the 1930s, and the house is late 1700s. And my dad and I actually renovated it. You know, I would get up, you know, I tell people this story, but like, you know, 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, my dad would wake me up. And, you know, I didn't go play baseball or anything like that. It was literally like, okay, we're, you know, working on this project and ripping out floors and, you know, doing that. And I kind of dreaded it so much. But then in the end, I grew to love it. And it was the thing that, you know, as I grew as a designer, I was like, oh, I know how to do that, or I know how things are built, or looking at problem solving with projects. I look at something and I'm like, no, that can be done, because at an early age, my head was wired into it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, did you ever flirt with becoming an architect?
I did. It was always between design. Even at one point, I wanted to, when I was in, I guess I was in high school, I wanted to be a fashion designer. Mm-hmm. My sister came home with a Paris Vogue magazine. You know, it was like probably like 1982, and I was obsessed looking at all the couture, and I just loved all of. I mean, it was all high style back in the 80s, right? And coming out of Paris, it was just so iconic and so beautiful. So, you know, I never made it to architecture school, but it just, you know, when I grow up, I'll think about going back to school.
You can tell, you can tell in your work. It feels
Thank
very
you.
hurt by that. So what was the first job you got?
My first design job.
Yeah, like
Uh,
where did you start? I mean, it's so interesting how people get started, but it also colors everything that comes after it. Where
right.
you do your tenures, because you take a
So
little.
I was going to school at FIT. I
Mhm.
was studying interior design. I was working at the same time at ABC Carpet and Home, and they had a customs department. Their second floor was textiles and, custom upholstery and drapes and pillows and all of that. And I was looking for a way to get myself into the industry while I was going to school. And I was approached by somebody from Thomas O'Brien's office. It was actually Amy Lau,
That was your
who
job?
my first job. Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's, that's so amazing. That, I mean, that's a brilliant, like you hear of all these people of the older generations who started at B. Altman's
right.
or even yeah, in department stores. So that's fantastic. So
Thank you.
Amy Lau plucked
So Amy Lau poached me from ABC, brought me to come work at Thomas's studio, which was on Spring Street at the time. So this goes back to like 1994. And I worked for a year and a half in the gallery. And then Thomas asked me to join the studio. And the
I love
caveat was I had to work full time and I had to be available, any weeknight during the week. And I was going to school at the same time. So I actually went to Susan Forbes, who was the chairperson at FIT, and said, Susan, what do I do? Thomas wants me to work for him. And she said, take the job and then come back and you can always finish school.
yeah.
So when I grow up, I'll
Yeah,
finish school.
yeah. Oh God, that is such a like Lana Turner sitting at the counter at whatever that
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
was it Schwab's or something?
Uh-huh.
Oh wow, so you really, yeah, and then you went out on your own. So that's it.
So, right. So I was with Thomas for 14 years. And, I think I was 40 and I just, when it's time, I mean, I loved working with Thomas. He's a genius, but it was time.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to sort of spread my wings. And that was back in 2010. So here
yeah.
we are.
Here we are. Um, so tell me about these international jobs too. I mean, I have so much I'd love to talk to you about. Like obviously your design work. I love your trim collection
Thank
for
you.
Ulez, um, which since I do happen to have it right here, I might as well show. And you said everything that you did here was based on the Villa Carrillos.
Yes, Villa
Yeah.
Carrillos.
Uh,
Have you been to Villa Carrillos?
no, you and I discussed this, and
Okay.
I feel aghast that that is the answer.
No, I'm telling you, it is, you probably have even passed it if you were in, yes. Okay, can I just quickly share? This is my grandfather's box. It's from Italy, probably 1960s. It's navy blue with this beautiful gold.
Yeah.
So this isn't Carrillos, but there are similar motifs at Carrillos, this sort of like bird beak. And very cool. My grandfather passed the bar. And so there's his letter for passing the bar. And there's like a $2. No, this is like a 3-cent like paper note from 1860 or something. Like crazy little like artifacts in here that I found in my grandparents' house.
Beautiful, and that box obviously is beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
what is it? I mean, again,
Helios.
you can see obviously the architecture, but you know what else is so cool is that it's so abstracted that it's modern.
Yeah. Well, it could be Geoponte, right?
Yeah.
Sort of this aqueduct feeling, which is ancient.
Yeah, totally. Or there's that great building in Rome that I think it's a
Oh,
Fendi headquarters.
or Foro Italica. Is that the name of it?
And it's also called like the Square Coliseum or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Tons of
Which
nicknames.
is remarkable.
It's remarkable, totally. I have a plaster model of it that I got from it's Chisel and Mouse, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's wonderful. So so what other is this your product? Is this what kind of product do you do, and what are you interested in doing? I'm sorry, I'm so all over the place today. I've like
No, no, no. So
like Instagram snafus is
with all of our projects, we design stuff for our clients. You know, I'm always looking for, you know, there's no such thing as like the perfect antique sometimes, right? You're looking for something that has to be 42 inches wide and this tall, and you know, you don't find it. And sometimes it's easier to make things and design things, and I do that a lot. We're very fortunate that we can do that. Um, and so it's what I love to do. Ulez is my first collection that I've done. And we have some other things simmering in the back for the future that we're very excited about. You know, we could do anything in the world, right? So if we're designing, we can make things. You know, I'm interested in lighting. I'm interested in furniture and textiles and all of that.
and it's fun to do big batch and small batch too, because then you can get like very intricate and yeah. It's great, these various outlets that people in design have available to them, not just to make money, but to inspire their muse, or no, wrestle with the muse.
Yes. Well, especially when we did the Ulez collection, you know, we did all of the, obviously all the design work. They came to me, they said, we want a collection for the American market. What do you want to do? And I said, oh, I love, you know, Villa Carolus is my inspiration. And they said, oh, but that's French. And I said, well, Americans aren't inspired by Americans necessarily. I mean, we are, but, you know, we're living in such a global world with Instagram and Pinterest. And, you know, we look at everybody's vacation and where, you know, exotic places where people travel. And, you know, we have this itch to, you know, see things that we're not seeing here.
What you designed was very eternal too. I mean, I don't think it doesn't look this or that. It looks, you know, applicable anywhere.
Yes. So the idea was like, we designed the collection, but we also, you know, we did the photo shoot at Carrillo's. Like we orchestrated, we did all of the photo assets for all the photo shoots. We designed the book, the catalog. We designed the box, which unfortunately you don't have the big box, but there is a giant, gorgeous big box, which is quite amazing. And we did all these assets, and that's really the fun part, because we're able to like take our whole story and show it that way. And I think that's really the exciting thing as a designer, to be able to take our ideas and like really like push it all the way.
Do you bring storytelling into your work for clients too? I mean, obviously it ends up being a story is being told, but do you say
absolutely
start with the idea of the story?
Yeah, there's always a narrative, you know. It's like you pull up to a house or you walk up to an apartment, and it's like what that whole trajectory is, you know, how do you get to that place, and what is the ultimate, you know, like what are all of the ideas behind, you know, the design, the attitude of it, and how does that pair with the architecture?
I apologize if he attacks.
That's okay. So we work with our clients in creating that narrative.
What's the narrative of your house where you live?
My husband would be like, what is that narrative? You know, it's funny because our house is, it's a 1902 colonial. Naturally, I'd love to live in a big neoclassical villa. So we try to keep it as appropriate as possible. But it is about beautiful finishes, but also knowing that it's not a super fancy house in terms of its construction. You know, again, it's 1902 shingle style. So things aren't overly lacquered, and like there's an appropriateness to it that makes it feel authentic and like, okay, this is real, and it's very livable that way.
I have always felt that appropriateness was the unsung hero of design, but as I'm as I'm getting older, I'm becoming less appropriate in my design desires.
Yeah, I get that.
It's kind of
Well,
like as you get older, your taste buds get dull, and like all
right.
of it, I love spicy food. But there's
Yes.
a strict and appropriate design. It is sort of like it's so seductive because the harmony is
Yeah.
there.
Well, I think there's still a way though to navigate it so it doesn't feel disconnected, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you throw, our little media room right now, to your point, right now is sort of a really deep, mossy green alligator wallpaper. And the same mossy green velvet drape, and there's a velvet sofa in there. And it's color, there's gilded rods with chains with hanging artwork. And, there's
Yeah.
it's very luxurious and it's lots of color, but it's also,
Is
you
this
know,
the formal house you were telling me about?
yeah.
You're like, it's just,
So there's a wool carpet. It's not a silk carpet. It's wool, so it tones it down. No, but it's like bring a little bit of that green into another room that's quieter. So it's these little tricks we all do.
I just lost that last bit because somebody was calling. What did you say?
Oh, it's just the way that I've taken that green now as a pillow and as a window seat cushion in another room that's more neutral, just to sort of thread it through so it's not jarring.
Um, I know how this year's color of the year is supposed to be periwinkle, but
Hmm.
I am feeling very olive green.
Oh,
Uh,
I am too.
I don't know why, but I feel like that's it for me right this year. I'm going to go through an olive green phase. So your mossy room sounds amazing.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
do you tend with the green paper and the green curtains? Do you like to do tonal rooms where you're working within a color?
Yes and no. It depends on the size of the room. So this is a smaller room, so enveloping everything in the same
Mhm.
color, but then having, I've just bought this beautiful. It's a bar from Pierre Cardin, 1970s, and it's in this brighter burled wood with brass trim, and it's completely out of context in a way to everything else in the room, but it was so perfect color wise. And it's a camel colored carpet in the room, this beautiful wool.
It
So
sounds very handsome.
it is very handsome, yeah. I, especially for rooms to get cozy in, for watching TV or reading. And but if the room is bigger, I would definitely bring in more color in terms of contrasting colors, because
Interesting.
otherwise a room could, in my mind, it could become so busy that you really don't relax in it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
though. Yeah, but I love some of those old rooms, say from the 80s or, earlier, like a Sister Parish room, where
Hmm.
it's almost so noisy that um like you go flat. I mean,
It's
it's
balance.
not like you get calmed by it somehow. Like
Right.
looking at like
Yes.
a busy pattern too hard and it becomes a straight color.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm saying something negative, but I'm actually praising
No,
it.
no, no, I totally get it.
Yeah. Um, I think of your work as as a lot of things. Obviously, you're able to do anything, but I do see a manliness, not a man, like a tinge of masculinity, and a
Hmm.
beautiful love of tailoring. Is that fair?
Hmm. Absolutely, yes.
Um,
Although we're known to do a pretty room for sure, but yes.
what's your favorite room to do in the house? I know that's like a corny question, but I'm sure it changes too.
They're they're also good. I mean, we love like, aside from the decorating, but we love designing kitchens and bathrooms. We love getting into the nuances of all the details and even, you know, every little ounce of a kitchen in terms of where every spatula goes and storage and all of that into, you know, how chic it is besides all of that, or a bathroom. But in terms of decorating a room, I think libraries for sure are one.
I totally,
Bedrooms, living rooms.
I agreed with so many of your comments in the questionnaire. Yeah, libraries are the best.
Yes.
Tell me about some of these out of global projects you're working on, and how you got connected with the people that you're working with.
So there's two projects I'm working on right now, actually in Russia. One is in Moscow, one is in St. Petersburg. And I know, kind of insane. The one in St. Petersburg is in a historical building. It was the Royal Horse Guards facility for Empress Elizabeth. So we're going back to about 1723 when this two-story courtyard-style building was constructed. And then I think in the 1800s, third floor, and then fourth, fifth was added on, probably Soviet era. Now, you've been to St. Petersburg. So
I love St. Petersburg. It's
so right where the very colorful cathedral is, which is the savor of the spilled blood. It's right at that canal. It's literally across the street, from it.
I think I climbed up that bell tower, if memory serves. Can't you do that?
I think
And
you
get
can.
on the roof of that church? I think so. I think I couldn't walk for like a whole day afterwards.
Yeah.
And well, I feel like it's across the river or across the courtyard?
Across the canal. So that's where the three bridges are. And you literally don't even cross the bridge because there's a road right there. But so exciting about this building, it's going to be luxury apartments. The Royal Horse Guard, who is generally a noble, had his office there. So that room is still intact. And just to tell you about the sort of layout, the ground floor, all of the rooms on the ground floor are all vaulted.
Yeah.
So we're taking all of these vaulted rooms and turning them into amenities. So they'll be the equivalent of, you know, hair salon and gym and yoga, and you have your own, your own professionals come to, you know, do your nails, do your hair.
To you. That's such a COVID wise. Did that
it's perfect. Even before COVID, it happened.
Yeah. Oh, that is amazing. And so how many apartments are going to be in this building?
So there's 8 apartments and there are 4 duplex penthouses. And then every one of those gets their own studio apartment on the second floor, which could be used as a guest suite or a she cave or man cave, or a storage closet for your furs or your
mistress or your mister.
Yeah. So that's really incredible. Then we also have, so I was introduced to the client who's an amazing developer. He's such a talented guy. But via Ralph Lauren. So we're actually doing, you know, it's not branded, but we're actually doing a small like polo bar-esque private club that will be used for the residences as well, which is so cool.
Yeah, somebody's just saying this sounds spectacular. It does. It sounds amazing.
It is. And then in Moscow, we've taken the idea of like a Hotel Particulier, a classic French mansion, you know, a city mansion, and together as a clubhouse, and then another building that has, let's see, 8 apartments plus a full-size penthouse on the entire roof. And that's all based on, it's all sort of 18th century French architecture.
Are you doing a model apartment in each of these?
So in St. Petersburg, we're doing all of the public areas, which is 2 floors worth. Then we're doing a model studio, a model apartment, and a model penthouse. And then our services are available for any client who wants to buy another apartment as an option.
Michael, you're going to leave America. You're never going to come back. They're going to take
it's really fun visiting because there's an amazing design team that I'm working with. my client there is just fantastic. So in the Moscow project, we're doing, so the penthouse, we're furnishing that. They have their own private reception on the ground floor. Then there's the grand lobby we're doing. And then we're doing 2 apartments. Across the street, there's a grand ballroom, a petite salon, a cigar wine room, and then all of the gym, yoga, spa amenities. We're doing all of those as well.
I believe my client would describe this as extra.
It is extra. It's very deluxe, in fact.
This sounds like to have not 1, but 2 projects of a lifetime in 1 year, or one span of time.
One period, right. So those 2 projects are about 65,000 square feet each for what we're covering. Then
65,000 square feet, for anybody who's interested, is the size of the White House.
Yeah.
That's gargantuan.
And then we're, for a private international client, we're doing a 60,000 square foot residence somewhere on the globe simultaneously. And then we have, I think, 7 or 8 other projects here in the office. And if somebody called me and they were so lovely and they wanted to do a living room and they were really nice, we'd be like, absolutely, let's do it. You know, so we don't only do big, massive projects, but we're very fortunate.
I once, when I was pregnant with my daughter, had somebody call the office, and I think I was like right before I was telling people I was pregnant. But I was like, okay, so I'm gonna like chill out with the travel. And as you said, a client called that was so, I did not know them at the time, but they were so lovely. I was like, okay. You know, like you just can't say no to working for wonderful people. What is your story for these projects? And did you come up with the story, or did you get the brief from the developer? Do you get to what I'm asking is, do you get to show these people how to live?
Yes.
It's sort of part of our job.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there was the St. Petersburg project, my client loves Ralph Lauren, for example. So there's a whole equestrian vibe about the whole place. But when you think about it, you're where the Royal Horse Guard lived, where his office was. So it's only natural that there's, equestrian-esque themes happening, because that was actually authentically what was there. Whereas the building in Moscow was all based on, a hotel particulier. So it's, what we bring to it is our knowledge, right? So the historical knowledge, or sort of the aspirational knowledge. You always think about everything through a rosy lens of, well, what would that have been like? How beautiful it could have been. And that's really what we like to push. When a client walks into one of our rooms, it's always, they have this feeling of unexpected beauty, because they start looking at the layers, which sometimes are very neutral, but things unfold, and they become enveloped in it, and they don't want to let go of it, because they just go deeper and deeper into it. So that's what we're bringing to these projects. So they're not your typical, development project where, you're stuck sticking some quick things.
Nothing sounds typical about either of those projects.
No.
Have no fear. I was not drawing that conclusion.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So how much do you travel? I mean, are you flown there?
I have not since COVID, naturally.
Yeah.
And then I just had to renew my passport and visa and all of that. So there is travel in the future. Yeah. The year before COVID, I was in Europe 6 times, just because I had to be, but, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I'm not crying for you. I'm not sorry.
I miss my husband and I miss my dogs.
Yeah, sometimes. Oh my God. So yeah, usually I ask people, what's a job that you haven't done that you'd love to do, but it doesn't sound like that exists for you. I mean,
oh gosh, no, a couple of years back, we went to this Tuscan village called Monteverde. up in the Val d'Orca, like looking out into this valley, and it's this hilltop village that there's only 13 residents left. The rest of it is it's all like a resort, like a hotel.
Oh,
And it was so remarkable. You know, of course, the older people, you know, they were all in their 90s, but so charming. And the idea to find a village like this and turn it into a, you know, a luxury property would be amazing. So
um,
that's on my bucket list of to do.
um, I'm going to ask you one of those annoying questions that is still like a totally valid question that I was asked yesterday when I was speaking to students at High Point University is how do you define luxury? And I only say it's annoying because it's there's so many components to it, but when you're referring to, say, making it a luxury destination there, what
Well,
does that mean?
it's a couple of things. So firstly, to just sort of get off the table, luxury does not mean like shiny and the most expensive,
Yeah.
right? It could be the most gorgeous, you know, linen that's like, you know, hand loomed or machine loomed, or but just has the most amazing hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece of linen, you know, is, you know, it drapes like the, you know, the perfect, you know, black little dress,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and moves beautifully. You know, that could be luxurious. Beautiful wood floors, you know, they could be raw wood floors. They don't have to be polished. Um, I think a very sensible, chic way of living, you know, again, it doesn't have to, you could be on a farm and it
The
could be,
definition of the word sensible is really great.
yeah, because if it's too contrived,
Mm-hmm.
and then it almost becomes less memorable. You know,
Oh,
I love experiences and I like creating experiences that are indelible.
yeah.
You know, you've walked into this room and, you know, it's not only what the room looks like, it's what it smells like, it's what the sound is. Um, you know, it's the temperature, all of the senses that go into a space that make it a remarkable space.
Yeah.
So for me,
Which,
luxury could be anything in a
yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny when, you know, when you mention all of the senses, which you're totally, I mean, of course, you're totally right. Um, it's not what people think that we contend with.
Hmm.
That they are the things that we contend with, but of course, they are the things that we contend with.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I hope I get to go to Russia and see these places. Will they be published, or is it going to be so secret?
They will be published. Yes.
Good.
And if you want to go, we'll arrange it. I'll do a personal tour.
Oh my God, I'm in.
How much fun would that be?
Oh my, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
I'm almost embarrassed to be talking about this on this because I know someone else is going to ask and to join, and I want you to myself. When do you think you're installing?
um, that's a good question. We're starting to, so each building will have a ground floor room used as sort of, we're calling it like the sales office. It's where early on people can come see and sit within the building to understand what's coming and what's being built. So those are going to be installed this spring. And then sort of towards the end of this year, we're installing model apartments.
Wow. Is the supply chain problem, does it extend there?
Um, we're buying everything here.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So
so,
yeah.
so like I described my love of Carrie-Los and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to Ulez, the international market, or let's say the Russian market, they love American culture. They love American furniture. So there's been some gorgeous Alexa Hampton pieces from Theodore Alexander
Why?
coming to Moscow, in fact, into St. Petersburg.
That is so great.
And there's obviously some Ralph Lauren furniture, naturally, because that was the sort of origin of conversation. We're doing some custom items as we need to do. And then there's a handful of antiques that will come in. And then accessories and such will come from all over. I mean, I do a lot of buying in England, you know, buying things in Paris as well, naturally, for Moscow.
I feel, you know, I'm an accessories lover. And that is putting it lightly. Um, but I do feel like they're harder and harder to come by. Do you feel that? I mean, of course they're out there.
Yes.
And thank heavens for Instagram, because that makes it makes it a lot easier. But I feel that there is an absence in the marketplace, because they are by nature, you know, they can't be big batch.
Right.
You don't want to see the same thing everywhere.
Yeah, no. It's and that's something that we're very well known for with all of our projects, is that we don't repeat ourselves. You know, I will have a client who sees something I've done and they're like, "Oh, I want that." You know, and I try not to do exactly that, but really, I want every project,
Yeah.
because I would be bored otherwise. I want every project to be different.
No,
So with accessories,
that's a great hazard for a
yeah,
designer, is you want people to associate you with something because you want them to want it.
yes,
But you can't, you know, you don't want to be churning out, stamping the same thing.
yeah. I mean, and look, it is done, or it used to be done a lot more, but I think in our digital world, like, I want to show my work when I can, but you clearly can't do that on Instagram. It's like, look,
Yeah.
it's done again.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure, like me, I just came from a meeting with at Cravat, and we were talking about, you know, what samples I would want for my office and stuff like that. And you know, for the big patterns, you know, I don't need to keep them in my office, because once I've used them, they've got to go bye-bye.
Right. Yeah.
That big statement fabric, unless it's a skin, really has to go.
Yeah.
It's
It's so
tragic.
true.
It's so tragic.
It is. There
What
are other colorways, though.
there? Yes, I will tell you that this Pierre Frey, it has a big presence in my life.
I love it.
In every one of its iterations. I'm sorry, my bunquette. I've got two bunquettes pushed together, and they are separating right where I'm sitting.
Oh, no.
I'm like about to crash onto the ground. So I apologize for that. Yes, somebody is saying that's why it's always great to work with artisans who do custom. And yes, of course, couldn't agree more.
Absolutely agree.
What would we do without them? Yes, and everybody wants something unique. So okay, so you can't tell us about the things that are on the back burner. Well, tell me a little about them. Well, okay, anybody watching this who wants to know about show houses. I mean, I feel that this, you know, of course, they're for a great cause. In the one that we did, you know, how much do we love the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club?
So much.
And for anybody hearing this who knows Jim Druckman, it is his birthday today.
Oh, fantastic.
But it's also really wonderful for one's career to participate in a show house, don't you think?
I really do. I mean, I strongly advise it for anybody who hasn't done one. And it was so interesting because doing a show house, you know, everybody's like, oh, you just dreamed of that idea and it was so easy. And I'm like, how do you know, to control yourself? It's like, well, okay, I have lots of ideas. Like, how do you pick, right?
Yeah.
That for me, I think was the hardest thing, is like, okay, well, and then because you have to also pick, well, what do you think will be right for the audience? You know, it's like, what do you want to do? But it's that push-pull of it. But
because sometimes it's fun to frustrate expectation.
Yes. Well, and then to pull it off in like 4 or 6 weeks.
Part. What did you anticipate the Texas audience to specifically want from you?
Understand, you know, it's interesting because people are like, oh, are you going to do a modern room? Are you going to do something more classical? And everybody I spoke with, you know, sort of said to me, they're like, Texas is like, they do love modern interiors, but at heart, they really are more classic, you know? And so my mind went to, again, what we do naturally. It's like, okay, there's a classical shell, and then within that, build in the generations. And so we invented this muse, Aveline Fournier, this French socialite who marries a Texan, moves to Dallas, and there was our room, and there's sort of some American but largely French vintage antiques mixed in with more modern things, and it kind of is the way I enjoy to live, where there's classical antiquity and modern objects all around. And
Yeah.
then
You
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 just,
can't put your finger on it. It's just
yeah,
like eternal.
yeah. It could have
It
been
doesn't fade.
1920s, it could have been 1960s.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, 1960s France, like the book, I mean, it's not, I guess maybe it was published in the 70s, the Finest Rooms in France book. When I
Hmm.
look at those, how people lived then in some of those rooms, it just kills me.
Yeah.
Um, oh, speaking of your love of a good floor plan, do you own the book? It's the worst title ever. But Apartments of the Affluent.
No, I don't have that.
It's amazing. Um,
Okay.
it is by, his last name is Alpern, and you must get it.
I will get it.
Don't you think? I think furniture plans are like maybe the most like essential part of the whole process.
It is, and it's so funny because when I do a furniture plan, I kind of avoid some typical layouts. Like I actually like to think about, like, I you know
Have that one.
I do two sofas together sometimes, but generally it's like early on it was like, okay, it's a death trap. It's like you get stuck in there if you're entertaining, right? So
I mean,
or
yeah,
it could be cozy, but it's like in my room in Kips Bay, for example, if like the real estate images had two sofas at the fireplace, and I'm like, what do you do with the rest of the room? Your back is to everybody.
yeah,
So it's multiple seating areas, and
yeah.
I mean, I love to.
The chaise location was inspired.
Thank you.
It was really cool, and it was really unexpected. And I don't think people really ever think of doing that, and they really should. Like a chaise in front of the fireplace is kind of like
Yeah.
it's you get your cake and you eat it too.
And nobody in Dallas complained because they're like, okay, well, we don't use our fireplaces that often, so it was even better
Yeah.
that it really did work.
No.
But it was also a good amount of seating too, and that was made by our friends at Moxie, Dennis Brecking's fabulous group, and yeah, it's a good piece to have.
What do you ever do, like diagonal things just to be? I don't. I can't help it. I'm in a grid.
I've done an oval diagonal desk before because it needed to be
Okay.
situated in an office, and the
Yeah.
circulation of the oval worked. And I've done it in a kitchen before in the Hamptons. Again, it was an oval. But no, I generally.
Yeah. And I get that
Yeah.
anyway. The fact that it was an oval let you do it, right? Because you didn't feel like you were barricading the person behind the desk.
Yeah.
Or in front of it. But yeah, I think those of us who love classicism, as you and I do, it's hard to cant something at an angle.
Right.
Actually, I had someone in my office when I once tilted a chair. They looked at me and they're like, "I can't believe you just did that. That is so not you." Am I?
Well, but don't you sometimes though do something and you try it out? Like I'll do things even in my own house, and then an hour later I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, like what was I just thinking?
Yeah.
Or you love it. You're like, oh, I actually do like this, and I do that on all of our projects. I try to be very definitive, but I mean, my staff knows. I might call them the next day and say, I don't like that anymore. I'm tired of it already.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I say I've turned on it. I'm like, all right, I've turned on that table.
Yeah.
I don't like it anymore. It's the pits. That's interesting. I like hearing that because I think people assume that we're so doctrinaire. And you do kind of, you are sort of communicating with this space,
Yeah.
and it has to speak to you and,
Absolutely.
fine.
I remember early on, I don't know, it was like Art Digest back in the 80s. They used to do these interviews, like 20 questions. And it was like, how long does it take you to make a decision or something like that? And it's like some of the older generation would say, oh, I used to pick a paint color in 2 minutes, but now I'm actually much more sensitive. And I'll, put it up and actually study it a couple of days before really feeling committed to it, because they know through their experience what light will do with it. And I've always remembered that, to not be afraid to go back and say, you know what, I actually don't like that. I thought I did, but You know, because
Yeah.
it's these are nuances. Like I think all designers, I imagine, do this, but like we study what we do.
Yeah, no, but it's smart to say that as a professional,
Hmm.
because it's part of your professionalism,
Yeah.
making sure that you're wed to your choice.
Hmm.
I mean, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Um, what what are the colors in your house besides moss green? What are the colors that you live with?
Generally, it's neutral in terms of wall color. It's all
Mhm.
pavilion gray, Farrow Ball. The dining room is the walls are all painted out with panels that are sort of Pompeian, but it's a terracotta um, double stripe that makes out panels, and then there's a really beautiful sort of washed out terracotta Fortuny drape in the room, and a big brass mastercraft table, but then 1920s French chairs with turquoise leather on them that I
Oh my God.
scored a while ago. Living room is worsted, a deep gray
Yeah,
Farrow Ball.
nice.
I'm searched for a new carpet for the room to brighten it up, but it's in progress. Um, the walls are hung similar it's Annenbeau paper, similar to what Martin did in Kips in his
And
bedroom.
bow,
Annenbeau. It's a French. They're in the Marais. Are they in the
is
Marais?
it
Yeah.
BAUX bow or
Annenbou. Oh gosh, now I'm forgetting.
like
I'll send
like
it to you.
like beautiful?
But they're a French paper company, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's almost like it's like a grisal. And then Fortuny makes this amazing basic linen in charcoal. Like there's no print to it. It's just like a really good basic. And so we did bed hangings hanging all around the bed from the ceiling,
love it.
um, and then drapes. And so it's all this murky sort of gray tonality. But then
Moody. Yeah.
the bed is sort of a deep rust velvet, and then the carpet is a beautiful like lavender lilac silk.
My head just blew up. What? It's charcoal and rust and lavender. Ooh.
Yeah, and the rust and the lavender are ridiculous together.
Oh my God, I have to, is this somewhere I can look at it?
No, I can send you some swatches.
No, I mean, take a picture
I'll
of the,
take a picture.
I want to swatch. I want to see that room.
I'm still finishing it, by the way. I need some lamps, but yes, I will send you a picture.
Um, oh, you're just finishing it. How long have you lived there? Or is this a redo?
Oh, this is like room number 700, like redo.
Yeah. How often do
We've
you,
been we've been there for a long time. We're like 20 something years, and we're always trying to figure out where we move into next. Of course, then we're in this wonderful bubble of like housing, and you can't find a house.
yeah. Um, yeah. So is your house your lab? It sounds like it is.
It is. I mean, I'm always doing something to it. You know,
Mhm.
I'll buy something, bring it in, move something else out, and you know, it's fun.
Yeah, everybody wants to see a picture of your house. I mention this a lot during these talks that it's kind of like my favorite thing to discuss with other designers, that your own house, you work for somebody and you do the house and the house is finished. But when we live in our own houses, we don't leave
It's never
them.
done.
So things keep happening. Is your house, well, I don't want to say this and then have a client here of yours hear this and get annoyed, but I would assume that your house is very expressive.
It is expressive. It's never done in my mind, and my husband will tell you as well. It's like, when are we getting curtains in this room? When are we doing this?
Well, I'm
I'm
or not, because you're moving to Russia. The Russians are
yes.
the Russians are Ukraine, and then they're taking you, and I am not happy.
As long as we have a fabulous apartment, we can fly back and forth. We can bring the dogs on the plane. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah.
No, so our house is always in flux because I'm always doing something different to it, or I'll see something, be like, oh, I need that in the office. I'm gonna bring, I literally will pull a table out of the house and bring it to the office for something, or you know, I buy something and it comes in, and then, but it's, I mean, in many ways, our clients come first,
Sure.
you know, but it is a work in progress.
It sounds like you're not sentimental either, which I'm usually not, you know, like when I'm done with a piece,
No, I am.
when I had it, even though I'm not, you know, I don't sell things out of my apartment, but sometimes I'm just ready to let them go.
Yeah, I think eventually I get to a point where I put in the pile and be like, well, that's going to be for the, you know, when we find our house upstate, we can put that. And so we have a really big storage unit.
Yeah.
Um, but I also believe in moving things on, you know. Sometimes I'll sell things, sometimes I'll donate them or give them.
Would you ever?
You yeah, absolutely.
I think you came up through Aero. I
Yeah.
mean, and through ABC. What am I saying? ABC, your first gig.
Right.
So you must have that gene.
Oh, I am like the biggest like shopkeeper. Like I would love to have a shop. You know, and again, it's all part of our global conversation. I definitely see us having an online presence of a sort of a retail shopping experience much sooner.
So not yeah, okay. So online first, but ever
Hmm.
order?
Hmm.
Ever brick and
Absolutely.
mortar?
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, especially since you're traveling all this, you know, so much. I mean, you're bringing things back and forth anyway.
And that's the fun part of shopping.
That is the fun part of shopping. Though I get scared about buying things. You know, if you have a store, then you can just say you're buying it for the store. Great. But I hate buying things um, on spec for clients
Hmm.
because it scares me. You know, then there's like, do you feel the pressure to sell it? Do they understand that like you really love it, or do they think you're just trying to get rid of something you bought?
Right. Right. You know, I go through that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Generally, what I buy, I always make sure that I love it enough. So if I'm buying something for a client and if they're slightly questionable about it, I was like, okay, well, would I like to own it if they didn't like it in the end?
Yeah, that's a great,
Um, but
that's a,
I also, early on, I learned about just take a video. So every time I go shopping and if I see something for a client, I literally am like, hi, and I talk to them. I do a video and then I WhatsApp them and they get it and they're like, oh my gosh, because they're seeing it almost three-dimensionally versus sending pictures. And
yeah. And they
it's
get,
so good.
I think seeing things like when I shop online, if I see something at an antique store and it's the glamour shot,
Hmm.
I call and ask them to send me like candids.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
like it in this space and relating to other things. And yeah. Somebody just said, yes, that's a brilliant tip. Um,
Hmm.
so anyway, thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Oh, I lost your voice. Hold on.
I feel
I,
like, sorry, the call come in.
yeah,
I
okay.
wanted just to thank, no, you can't hear me. I just wanted to thank you so much. This has been so much fun and I really miss you. What people
Thank you for
don't
having me.
understand about show houses is that we become like brothers and sisters. You
Absolutely.
know, like we were the graduating class of
Hmm.
Dallas 2021, right?
We are definitely. And thank you so much.
It was wonderful to see you. I'm sorry I got on so late. I
That's
really
okay.
Mercury. We
That's
began with
okay. We're all
Mercury
here.
and we'll end with Mercury. So,
Yes.
um, where can people can go see all of your work on your internet site,
Yes.
on
At
your
the website,
website?
we have a new website is coming out, but certainly on Instagram, and you'll be seeing a lot more.
And how? Okay, good. Is there a book in the near future?
Um, Not in the near future, but there's more.
Well, I demand a book.
Okay.
I demand it.
Absolutely. I'll call you.
Okay. I will give you my literary agent. I will
Okay.
text that to you.
Perfect.
And you will text me the rust, lavender, and charcoal.
I promise.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been so great to see you. And I'm totally gonna hold you to the Russia thing.
Oh, good. Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, it's happening.
Awesome.
And we have witnesses.
All right.
Okay. All right.
I love
You're
it.
never gonna get rid of me. All right.
No. Thanks, Alexa.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you.